Like they could be taken over by that creature that's coming out of the water, but instead they're just dancing and enjoying the beautiful moonlight and the stars. Hi, I'm Ashleigh, and welcome to the Big Crystal Energy Podcast. This is a place for the crystal curious, arcane-minded, and everything in the in-between. In this podcast, we will jump down the rabbit hole into the metaphysical, esoteric, occult, and spiritual realms. Nothing is off limits. I'm a mom, wife, an orthopedic physician assistant by day, and a seeker of all things spooky and kooky by night. I've spent my entire career in the medical field, but have always felt like there is more out there, and this is where we will explore together. We will have conversations with crystal healers, rock hounds, artists, musicians, spiritual coaches, magic makers, and anything woo-woo that strikes our fancy. Let's take our spiritual journey to the next level. So grab a crystal, pour a cup of tea. It's time to feel the big crystal energy. Welcome back to the Big Crystal Energy Podcast. I am Ashleigh, and thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited about today's episode because as someone that very much loves the magical, mystical, metaphysical world, I am not someone that knows all that much about astrology, and I'm trying to learn more. So this episode is all about Pisces season. We are deep into Pisces season by this point, and I want to use this as an opportunity to share about the season, but also to learn myself, because if anything, this podcast is a learning journey for me and for you, and we're kind of in it together. I'm not an expert on any of these topics, but there's things that I am deeply interested in learning and also sharing as I go along my journey. So this week, I just want to say thank you to all of my listeners, to all of my new listeners. It's just been so good to get back behind the mic and start recording again. It feels so amazing. This week, I'm here. Eventually, this video will be up on YouTube, and you'll see that I have this giant puffy sweater on. It looks like a cloud, and it's very dreamy, and I have a little necklace here that has an eye, and it's just sparkly and dreamy, and my whole look, I wanted to have like a very Pisces-esque experience going on, and I'm burning some lavender incense, and I have candles going, and it's just a whole vibe to get in the mood for this episode. So Pisces season is really about deep emotions, intuition, and reflection. So I want to really feel that as I'm talking to you today. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the energy of Pisces season, crystals, correspondences. I'm going to give you a small little Pisces season ritual that you could easily do at home. And we're going to do a little bit of I'm going to offer a tarot spread and a tarot card that is very in line with this particular season. But before I begin, what is giving me big crystal energy this week? You guys, I bought my domain name. I am now the proud owner of bigcrystalenergy.com. And I have to say, I was actually so surprised that domain name was available. I thought I would have to be something different, like bigcrystalenergypodcast.com, but I just wanted Big Crystal Energy because I feel like not only is this a podcast, I feel like I'm just starting this Big Crystal Energy revolution, this energy that's just even beyond crystals. So I was thrilled when I found the domain name and I snapped it up and I was like, this is me, this is it. And I don't know if you saw any of my social media this week, but I had picked my son up from school the day I bought the domain name, and I told him, my son is 8, and I said, hey buddy, I just bought bigcrystalenergy.com. And he's like, wow, you did? You know, and of course he doesn't really understand. And I said, yeah, I bought the website and now I'm the CEO of bigcrystalenergy.com. And he's like, yeah, you're the CEO. That's so cool. And then he said, and it was just so cute. He's like, yeah, mom, now that's why when we go to Iceland, we can stay in fancy hotels. Because I don't know if you've heard me mention this before, but our family is taking my dream trip to Iceland this coming summer. So I was like, yeah, I love that. I love that energy for us. But the funny part is that while I do own the domain name, there's nothing on bigcrystalenergy.com right now. There's no website that's coming. But I just thought that was a really cute story. But the other part of it is that if I want to embrace that energy of being the owner and I being basically the CEO of a company that I am wanting to build, and maybe it doesn't completely exist right now, if I start stepping into that energy, then I will feel within me, and then that will give me the energy and motivation to keep working towards my goals. So we just have to put out into the world like what we want to be and who we want to be, and then we can embody it. And I feel like it's really empowering to have that energy. So that's a little story I wanted to share about my big crystal energy moment of the week because it felt really exciting. So stay tuned. Lots of cool stuff to come. It was a really big week for me. So as far as Pisces season, two of the most important people in my life, my mom and my husband, are both Pisces. However, I feel that there are certain personality aspects that they have that are similar. They like to be in control of their worlds. I would say that they're very different too. So that makes it interesting how, being a Pisces, there can be different ends of the spectrum, as with many things and most things in life, right? So it's been really cool and crazy as I have felt the energy shift into the season. I feel like I have had so many mental downloads with ideas and projects and just different things that I want to work on. And I have truly felt the shift since Pisces started officially on February 19th. So I just feel really intuitive. I feel very excited. I feel like it's just a beautiful time of the year. It's a time of the year to really ramp up our dreaming. My big word of the year is intuition. So I've just been really leaning into that and what feels aligned for me at this time. It's a big season of growth for me, but also it's a big season of vision questing and just feeling excited about things. So like I said before, maybe you're new to astrology. Maybe you actually don't know that much yourself. Maybe you just know what your sign is. I'm a Sagittarius. My sun sign is a Sagittarius. And I know about my sign, but I don't really know that much about other signs. I feel like a lot of people in my world, they're like, oh, she's a Capricorn, or, oh, she must be a Cancer, or she must be a Pisces, or she must be a Scorpio. And I'm always like, well, how do you know that? I don't have all the different energies of the astrological signs memorized by any means. But I have found it very interesting the more that I have been studying these things, how accurate that and truthful it can be. Especially I've noticed in myself how many attributes of a Sagittarius that I really have now that I've gotten older. I think I identified with my sign a little bit less when I was younger because I felt like I was a little more introverted and things like that. But now as I've gotten older, I've gotten louder, I've gotten bolder, I've gotten more adventurous. And I really do feel that I am a true Sagittarius. So Pisces season, because we're not talking about Sagittarius season right now. We're not talking about me. And yet we're always talking about me. Anyway, that's my own issue. Is February 19th through March 20th. My husband's birthday is on March 4th. And actually my mom's birthday is today, February 23rd, when I'm recording. Pisces is technically the final sign in the zodiac. So the zodiac kind of goes in a cycle. Pisces is the last one. It's meaning it carries kind of the energy of completion, reflection, and dreaming before the new cycle begins. Its element is water, which can kind of reflect deep emotions, intuition, creativity, spirituality. Its ruling planet is Neptune, which Neptune is the planet of dreams, illusions, imagination, and spirituality. I have notes. I have to have notes. I can't have all this memorized. Are you crazy? There's so much. We see things like I mentioned before, deep intuition, spirituality. You have heightened dreams and creativity. Maybe you've been having really wild dreams at night. And maybe this is an opportunity for you to start journaling those dreams or noticing patterns within your dreams. People often feel very emotionally sensitive during this time. People that are Pisces are often very empathetic. And I see that very much, especially like with my mom. She's very emotional. She's very sensitive, and she's also very empathetic. But my husband on the other side of it is very He's like very creative, and he's a big dreamer. And this is a time of just kind of surrendering and going with the flow. What this season feels like to me, which is kind of why I decided to wear my big fluffy cloud sweater, which is, let me tell you, extremely hot, and it's probably going to have to come off in about a hot second. It's a very mystical time. It's a very dreamy time. It may be a time where you feel more in tune with the things around you, like the unseen realms. It's a time to kind of dissolve boundaries and barriers and blocks and walls that you've put up around yourself, which means it's also a good time for healing and just kind of wanting to escape from those boundaries and blocks. It also means it's a really good time for shadow work, releasing emotions, connecting to your spirits. It almost feels to me, my interpretation of it, it's almost kind of like a liminal time, a liminal period, a period between this world, that world, especially because we're at the end of the zodiac and we're going to be going into a new cycle. So oftentimes they say that around Christmas time, the veil is thin, right? And so we feel that. I feel that personally kind of at this time. I don't know if that's something that other people necessarily feel, but I feel like this thinning because we're at this period where it's been cold, it's been snowy, it's been winter. And now during this Pisces season, I feel kind of this evolution where the spring is coming. You can see the changes outside, the warmth. For us here in California, this weekend, it's actually quite warm. I think it's almost probably 70 degrees outside. I'm going to take my kids outside this afternoon. I'm burning up wearing this massive sweater, so I think it's going to have to come off. That is a great sweater, but let me tell you, it is not the best sweater for us here in California because it doesn't get that cold. So I don't have that many opportunities to wear my big, ugly, gaudy, puffy cloud sweater, but I love it. I just love big, ugly, gaudy sweaters. What can I say? So this time of year, I have, about 5 different crystals that are, I think, very beautiful to use during Pisces season. I'm going to share them. So those of you that are watching on YouTube, or are interested in these crystals, you should watch this on YouTube because I'm going to show examples of these crystals. They're common crystals. They're not that bizarre. So if you're interested in getting them, they're readily available. Now, there's different price points for what you want to get. That's up to you how much you're willing to spend, but you can usually find small tumbles that are not necessarily that expensive and they're still beautiful. And as I have mentioned throughout this whole podcast, the size of your crystal does not matter. If you only have like a small tumbled stone, that can be equally as powerful as a giant, gorgeous, showcasey piece. And oftentimes I personally like the tumbled pieces just because they're easier to just pop in my pocket and carry around with me. I have big showy pieces, and I'm going to show you a piece of amethyst that I absolutely love, but I can't carry it around with me. It's too big, but it is beautiful, and I love to put it on my desk or my bedside table, and it has this gorgeous, like, dreamy, mystical vibe to it, but practically, I can't really take it with me. So, number 1, amethyst. So, the birthstone for February is amethyst. The birthstone for Pisces season is aquamarine. So the first stone here I have is my big, chunky amethyst heart. I love heart carvings of crystals. For whatever reason, I just love hearts. I've got a heart little necklace thing going on here. I love hearts. This piece is so gorgeous. Look how big it is. It's so cool. So I have a stand that I have it resting on usually, but it really is a beautiful stone for enhancing intuition, dream recall, and spiritual growth. And amethyst is one of my top 5 favorite crystals. It's readily available. It's so gorgeous. It's, relatively reasonable in price. I mean, I got this big piece was a little bit expensive, but that's because it's very heavy. And when I hold it, I feel like not only does it feel really powerful to me? I absolutely am obsessed with the color. I think this is kind of one of my signature colors, this purple. And this is one of my favorite pieces that I have. Aquamarine is another stone for this season. I have this beautiful piece of aquamarine right here. Now, this is a really nice piece of aquamarine, and it's kind of a blue color. However, aquamarine can be quite expensive. So I have also, that's a little less expensive, is this aquamarine tumble. And I love this little piece too. And aquamarine is very great for emotional clarity and just inner peace. It feels very peaceful to have that stone with you. Now, another one of my top 5 favorite stones that I talk about all the time, which you might get sick of me talking about, but I'm probably never going to stop talking about it, is, of course, labradorite. Now, I have this little gorgeous labradorite heart here. It has such a gorgeous flash to it. And of course, this stone is perfect for Pisces season because labradorite is all about intuition, connecting like our psychic abilities, and it's very protective about protecting our energy. So I have this beautiful little labradorite heart. I have my labradorite palm stone that I always carry with me. And I also have this really cool labradorite egg. It's kind of like an egg shape. It's so neat. And it's got that really neat flash. I got this at a crystal shop in San Francisco. I've gotten my pieces from all different places. And I love having the stones where they remind me of a time and a place. So I have gotten so much better about buying my crystals in spots that are going to remind me of that time and place when I bought them. And then it also helps me remember that connection to what the stone means. Because sometimes if we go into a shop and we buy a whole bunch of different tumbles because we think they're prettier, we feel a connection to them in some way, then it can be very challenging to remember what they're for. We don't have a specific connection to them because we bought a bunch of them at the same time. So I have just been personally a lot more mindful of how I buy my stones because I want to have that connection, that special connection to each stone or each type of stone. And when you discover what your favorite crystals are, you tend to buy a lot of the same ones. So even though their meaning can be similar, your connection to that particular stone will be different based on where you got it and what was going on in your life at that time, and maybe the shop that you were in or the location that you were in or the trip that you were on or whatever it may be. So yes, labradorite, always a fan favorite at my house. Another one of my absolute favorites, moonstone, which of course makes sense for Pisces season. The moon has got this super dreamy aspect to it. I have a few different pieces of moonstone to show you. This one is just a basic, once again, a heart carving, a basic piece. They can call this rainbow moonstone, but rainbow moonstone has more of a white color to it. And it has a similar situation where it has a flash, kind of like on labradorite has that flash. Moonstone has it too, but sometimes you have to get it in just the right light to see it. And different pieces of moonstone will have more or less flash than others. This particular little heart here does not have much of a flash. Now, I also have this heart carving of, I swear I didn't mean to bring all these hearts, but when I was pulling together my stones for this episode, I just happened to find all my little hearts and I was like, okay, that's fine. This is black moonstone and it also has a flash, but it doesn't show up very well in this video. And then I have this other big piece of moonstone, and this one is really cool. I'm not sure if they would consider this black moonstone or rainbow moonstone or whatever, but it's neat. No matter what it is, who cares, right? And my final crystal that I want to offer is fluorite. Now, fluorite is, of course, quite dreamy, and I have this fluorite wand. How cool is this? It's so many different colors. It's just so beautiful. It's got greens and purples and just the clear quartz color, like the clear, and it's very sparkly, and it feels so beautiful just to hold this wand. It just feels like very powerful. Fluorite is like a very grounding stone for Pisces season, and it kind of helps you avoid this feeling lost, kind of a lost at sea feeling. It helps ground you and pull you back into who you are. Now, as you may have noticed with these stones, they kind of correlate a little bit to the colors that are like color correspondences for this season. The purple of the amethyst, the seafoam green, which you can kind of see in the aquamarine, which is not, this particular piece of aquamarine doesn't have a greenish tint to it, but it's more of like a sea, like the color of the sea, the blue. And then silver, which you can see in the moonstone or the flash inside of the labradorite. Herbs for this season, I do have some lavender with me right now. A little lavender bundle, so it smells so delicious. I'm burning some lavender incense. It's just a very calming scent. You can also work with mugwort, which is really great for dream work, and chamomile tea. It's so soothing. It's so lovely to drink chamomile tea before bed at night. If you want to work with some essential oils, you can use sandalwood, ylang ylang, and clary sage. Those are beautiful for this season. And also just lavender essential oil. I love lavender essential oil. All right, so now I'm going to take a little sip of my espresso. I'm going to admit I've had 3 cups of espresso today. A lot going on over here. I do want to share, if you're watching this video on YouTube, this cup is super near and dear to my heart. My grandmother, she passed away quite a few years ago. She was 96 when she passed. My grandma Kay, she had these cups in her kitchen, and we would always hang out at Grandma Kay's house, and we would drink her Folgers out of her coffee maker, just black, no cream, no sugar, nothing. And we would drink it out of these cups. And so I have one of these cups from her house, and it's just like my favorite cup. I always think of her. I always just like feel her energy when I'm drinking out of it. So I just want to share that because it's just cool. You know, sometimes it's cool to have things from our ancestral lineage with us. What to lean into, what to avoid during Pisces season. So as we've talked about, this is a very important time for intuition, trusting our gut, paying attention to synchronicities. I did a interview for the podcast yesterday with a friend of mine, and it was so interesting, some of the synchronicities that came up during that interview. And I just highly encourage you to just notice certain things, right? So there's just so many things in life that we just say, oh, it's just a coincidence. I don't believe that. I believe it's more of a synchronicity. Things happen. And I don't think everything happens like they say everything happens for a reason. I mean, in some senses, yes, but I feel like when we notice these things, it's so cool to really reflect on them. This is a very creative time. So maybe try something that you have always been interested in. For me, like I've always wanted to try watercolor. I have a little watercolor set. I've never gotten it out. Maybe I should just try to find a time to do a little watercolor. It's a beautiful time if you are a painter. Maybe it's a great time for me to keep writing. It's a good time for dreaming up new projects or things that you want to get involved with. Focus on the creativity of this season and channel that and use that to your benefit. For me, I love this season because it feels like such a cool time to work with my tarot cards, my oracle decks. Maybe I could do like a ritual bath and put lavender and sage, not necessarily sage, but like that clary sage, and just use that time to relax and just dream and think about all the things that, that we want to have going on in our world. And if you have anything emotionally that you're dealing with, maybe this is a time to really think about processing it and not trying to sweep it under the rug. Because as we all know, if we have things that are emotionally bothering us, if we're not addressing them, they just get worse over time. And sometimes we don't have to necessarily confront the things, but maybe just making a baby step and starting to do some journaling and let it out. Because even if you let it out into a journal where nobody else is going to read it, as long as you're not just always holding it inside of you, it will feel better. I promise you, it will feel a little bit better. What we want to avoid during this time is escapism. Just leaning into watching too much TV, watching Netflix all the time, constantly scrolling on our social media, drinking too much, numbing out. Like, that's not the season for this. I mean, honestly, there's not really a good season for that, but try to avoid that. People that are Pisces tend to absorb a lot from other people. They tend to absorb other people's emotions because they're very empathetic people, but it's very important to set boundaries. And if you're a Pisces, or even if you're feeling the energy of the Pisces season, it's amazing to dream big, but don't be completely unrealistic. Like, yeah, I could say, my dream is to have a $50 million house in the Caribbean or something. But I mean, right now, realistically, like, I think it's better to dream about things that we can kind of focus and hone in on right now. Now, I don't really have a dream of having a 50 million house in the Caribbean. That's not really my vibe. But like, if I did, yes, you can put that out there. But personally, I think as far as the energy of this season, let's focus on dreaming up things that we can actually tangibly work on right now. All right. So I have a small little ritual, kind of a dream work, sort of intuitive, reflective ritual that you could do. All you need is amethyst or moonstone, because they're great for intuition. A candle. You could use a purple candle, a blue candle, maybe, just those little candles, or even if you have like a tea candle or whatever, just that's in those colors. Get your journal, get your pen, maybe make some lavender tea or chamomile tea, and just have a moment. You don't need a ton of time for this, but just make a little bit of time and light your candle. Take some deep breaths, hold your crystal, set your intention. What is it that you want to manifest? What intuitive wisdom do you want to have come into your body? And start writing. Is there a dream that you just had that is kind of swirling around in your mind? Is there like an intuitive feeling that you've experienced that you aren't sure what to do with that? Did you have a recent huge emotional experience that you haven't processed yet that really stood out to you? Maybe write all that down and think about, what is that trying to teach me? And what emotions am I holding on that I need to release? Or what emotions do I need to lean into? And do some journaling on that. And then this could even just be 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be this huge committed amount of time. When you're done, close your ritual, have some gratitude, blow out your candle, drink some of your tea, and then just kind of relax into the intuition and knowing that whatever it is you put out there needed to be put out there. And now it's in your journal, and you can just have a little moment for yourself, because I think so often we don't take time for ourselves for these things. Also, I want to share a tarot card for Pisces season, and I picked the moon. It just feels like an obvious choice, and I'm going to share with you this card. I have this card. It's from the Modern Witch tarot deck by Lisa Sterle, and it's basically a moon, and then there's two women. I mean, they appear to be naked, dancing under the moon, and then there's just kind of this ominous creature coming out of the water, which I find very interesting. So this card really represents intuition, dreams, hidden truths, which is just the overarching theme of this whole Pisces season. It encourages us to trust the unknown instead of fearing it. So I think a lot of this is with this card, and the way that it's pictured here is that you have these women and they're kind of dancing under the moon, and they're just trusting in the energy of the environment around them, rather than leading into the fear of that creature or whatever that's coming out. They could be taken over by that creature that's coming out of the water, but instead they're just dancing and enjoying the beautiful moonlight and the stars and everything. So when I looked inside the little booklet for this deck, I want to read you the quote that comes with this particular card. It says, "Wake up your wild side, imagination, and the realm of the mind can allow you to see things in a new way. You might be feeling restless, kind of weird, and full of wild energy. So be spontaneous. do something crazy. Trust your instincts. It'll lead you to new and possibly strange places. But beware that by waking your wild side, you may wander into some dangerous places as well. So be alert and listen to when your gut tells you you've traveled too far into the unknown. And if you love tarot, I am going to offer you a 4-card spread. So I have 4 prompts that you can pick 4 cards. And then the first card will be, what illusion am I holding on to? The second card will be, what truth is trying to reveal itself to me? Card 3, how can I connect more deeply with my intuition? Card 4, what do I need to release before Aries season begins? So Aries season is that's the beginning of the zodiac. And I would suggest try pulling those cards, asking those questions, and then, journal your insights. What have you kind of discovered? What do the cards teach you? What are they telling you? I know I'm personally going to do this probably later today because it feels completely aligned with everything right now. So to wrap things up, Pisces season is a really powerful time for intuition. Trust your gut. Trust what the universe is telling you. If you're feeling a creative pull, go with it. If you feel like you have a lot of things that you need to heal or release, it's a good time to start. This is a season to surrender. It's a flow season. Trust the process. Let your intuition guide you. Give yourself permission to dream, heal, and connect deeply with your inner world while keeping healthy boundaries in place. So I hope you enjoyed all that. I think for me, spending time learning about Pisces in this way has really cemented this zodiac sign in my mind. And I feel very confident going forward chatting with others about this season. Obviously, I didn't do a massively deep dive. I just wanted to hit the surface. But I think it's a good starting place for us, for those of us that are more interested in learning the basics of the zodiac, that astrology and things like that. It's very, I don't want to say, well, it is a little bit complicated. Yes. There's just so much to learn, right? So sometimes it's just helpful to start with the very basics, the very, very basics, and then build out from there. This is not an astrology podcast by any means, but it is part of the mystical, magical realm. And yeah, so thank you so much for listening. I would love it if you could just rate and review. That will help me so much. I have some really fun things in the works. I am working on getting a website. I'm working on getting a YouTube channel so that I can post these videos because I think it's very helpful, especially when I'm showing the crystals and the herbs and the cards that I'm pulling. I think it's nice for people to see that. Plus, you get to see my outfits and whatever kooky things I have going on in the background. And yeah, so anyway, enjoy. Have a beautiful rest of your Pisces season, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for jumping down the rabbit hole with me. If you connected with this episode in any way, I would love it if you could share it with a friend. Also, please tag me on social media. I'm at mystical.mama.ash or at Big Crystal Energy Podcast, mostly on Instagram. It helps so much getting my episodes out there and finding more magical, kooky, and spooky friends. Sending you all Big Crystal Energy. Cheers!